In this video we're going to look at removing a closed couple toilet, one of many different styles of toilet. All it means basically is that the cistern is attached to the toilet pan itself. You'll find with most closed couple toilets that there'll probably be some boxing in. This is a full bathroom refit I'm working on here, so I'm just going to remove the boxing in all around it, so we've got nice easy access to the filler valve and to the wing nuts, and also the waste that comes out from the back of the toilet. So once your boxing is removed, you've got nice access here. If you have turned the isolation valve off that feeds the toilet, then go ahead and undo the nut. Sometimes you'll encounter problems such as the isolation valve won't shut off, or when it does shut off it just trickles water out the center of the valve. So just drain your water down depending on what system you have. It makes it easier as well because it takes the remaining water out of the filler valve. Once you've done that, go ahead and remove the lid, accessing the two screws there. I just prized this one away from the wall with a screwdriver as the screws were rusty. If you're lucky enough that the wing nuts haven't rusted, undo them underneath, one on each side. As you can see here, you might need to just give them a spray with a bit of WD-40 just to loosen them off, but sometimes they do come off quite nice. And then just lift off the cistern. Still some water in that one, so I poured it into the bath. Next job is to take the screws out of the pan. Again, sometimes they can be rusted. What I usually do if they are is just put a metal drill bit through the middle just to sort of pull them out. Sometimes you can prise the toilet away from the floor without touching the screws, depending on how well they're fixed. Next thing to do is just remove the pan, and I would recommend covering the waste outlet with a plastic bag tied with either elastic bands tight, or you generally use insulation tape or masking tape just to keep the smells at bay. And then make sure you properly cap off your feed. This is a mains pressured house, so it's speed fit they've used throughout, so I'm just putting a speed fit cap on there before the water goes back on. So we're going to look at some common problems and solutions as well, because it doesn't always go as straightforward as that example. First problem: if your isolation valve won't turn off or is leaking when in the off position, just drain down your system, and as I showed you earlier, if it's copper pipe, then just cut that off and isolate it nicely with either an isolation valve or a speed fit blank end. If the wing nuts are rusted and won't loosen, you've got a couple of choices. You can try first with a bit of WD-40, let it soak in for a couple of minutes, and then try to loosen them again. If they won't budge at all, I have in the past got a hacksaw blade between the toilet and the bottom of the cistern, but that's quite fiddly. So what I do now is I just gently tap the back end of the toilet until it cracks, and then the cistern comes off nicely. But just be careful because there are some sharp parts here, and just make sure the cistern is empty as well as the toilet pan so you don't cause too much of a mess. If the cistern screws are rusted and the cistern won't come away from the wall, like I mentioned earlier, I just tend to prise it off of the wall. If that doesn't work again and there's no water in the cistern, just give it a gentle tap around the screw holes, and it should just gently crack and come away from the wall. If the pan won't move after the screws are removed, that means it's either been glued in very well or it's been cemented in place. So your best option once the cistern is off is to either give it some good force, give it a good budge, and if it still won't move, make sure you've cut the sealant around the base with a Stanley knife. The last resort would be to again tap around the screws with a hammer after the toilet's been emptied of water. You can empty the water out of the trap just using an old plastic bottle that you can cut a V shape out of. Just scoop it out. I wouldn't recommend using your tea mug. So that's all the steps I use for removing a closed couple toilet. I hope it makes it easier for you.